So welcome to the November 1st, 2022 Zoning Board of Appeals special meeting of the town of Raymond. The Zoning Board of Appeals will come to order. The board does have a quorum. I am now going to do a roll call. David Murch.
Greg Dean.
Tom Hennessy.
Fred Miller.
Pete Lockwood.
This is a public proceeding unless the board specifically votes to go into executive session. Then you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all the exhibits that are presented. Please notify the chair if you are unable to see or hear. The board works from a published agenda, and we will be considering tonight's items in the following order. Number 1, call to order. Number 2, old business, acceptance of findings of fact. Number 3, new business, request for reconsideration of findings of fact. And number 4, adjournment. In each instance, the burden is upon the applicant to demonstrate compliance with the provisions of the applicable ordinances or state law. After the board votes on the merits of each application, it will prepare a written notice of decision because the notice of decision may substantially affect any appeals rights, and also as a matter of courtesy, the board asks that those attending the meeting with regards to a specific application not leave until the board has completed its discussion. Generally speaking, appeals from adverse decisions must be filed with the Superior Court as otherwise provided by law within 45 days of this board's decision. Also, to be certain that you preserve your individual rights to file any such appeal, you must be certain that the board's record evidences your appearance this evening in opposition and the basis for your opposition. All persons speaking, including representatives of the applicant and members of the public, are asked to state their name, address, and affiliation with the application, either being for, opposed, or neutral. All persons speaking shall address all remarks or questions to the chair. This meeting is not over until the board is formally adjourned. Any discussion not included on the meeting agenda or accepted by the board is to be held until after adjournment or conducted outside the meeting room. So number 1, number 2, old business, acceptance of finding of fact. We have administrative appeal, renotice of violation issued 3/10/2022, applicant Gregory P. Braun, Esquire, on behalf of Big Lake Marine LLC, Robert Durant, member manager, location 28 Whitetail Lane, map lot 001020, zone LRR2, description, administrative appeal from notice of violation. Can I get a motion? I think this is supposed to have been tabled, so I need a motion to get this untabled.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor? David Murch, yes.
Greg Dean, yes.
Tom Hennessy, yes.
Fred Miller, yes.
Pete Lockwood, yes.
Very good. So as we have in the past, Attorney Wagner, if you can walk us through next steps, please.
Sure. So the board has before it a draft written decision pertaining to administrative appeal Big Lake Marine for 28 Whitetail. I circulated this 2 hours ago. I will see if I can screen share. Could the host authorize that?
Yeah. Broadcast studio, are you able to help out?
No, Sandy is the host.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I've got it now.
Does that work, Stephen? I sent you.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So let me do that so you can see my screen here. All right, so everybody sees the written decision of Big Lake Marine?
Yes.
Okay. So I input track changes on the 2 typos that Attorney Wyckoff spotted, the addition of Pete Lockwood here and a edit to section 7 to reference that section 7 is not duplicative of section 6. This paragraph here. As we were discussing, 2 of the vote counts were not here, and I think that's because I wanted to verify with the video, but I ran out of time to do that. Sandy or anybody, do you have your notes on the votes for the motions for 8 and 9?
Yeah, just give me a second to get back to that part.
Sure. My recollection is that we had a 5-0 in favor of upholding violation 8 and a 5-0 in favor of upholding violation 9.
This is Tom. I would agree with, that's what I have.
I agree as well.
Stephen,
Yes.
I had one other on page 3. If you go to the third paragraph, which is a single sentence,
Mhm.
it says, based on these findings, the board concludes that MCL, should it be BLM?
It should.
I was just gonna say that, Pete.
Thank you. Were there any other substantive comments? As Tom noted, he'll send his edits to Sandy and we'll go through our proofing process before we circulate this for the board to sign.
Yeah, this is Tom. One of the vote counts, I think, that I found was the one about consolidating 6 and 7 and
Yep, so I had that as a 4 against consolidation, 1 for consolidation.
yeah, maybe that is what I have. That's just maybe it was the actual vote below that, violation 6 itself.
Right, I had 4 in favor of upholding violation 6 and 1 opposed.
Yeah. And I have 5 yeses. I think.
Yeah, that was my recollection as well, Tom.
I voted.
I
I
think
voted.
Greg Dean would have been the no vote. Greg, do you recall?
Yeah, I voted uphold it once it wasn't consolidated.
Okay,
It was 5-0 and 0.
all right.
I just typed that today.
Thank you. Any additional edits from the board?
None for me.
Okay, so I will have Sandy do a final proof after she goes through the minutes and we'll get that circulated. So can I have a motion to grant the appeal in part and deny the appeal in part as provided in the draft decision before you?
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion before we vote? All those in favor of accepting, David Murch, yes.
Greg Dean, yes.
Tom Hennessy, yes.
Fred Miller, yes.
Pete Lockwood, yes.
Okay, perfect. So we're all set with that item then. I'll turn it back to the chair.
Okay, so we do have new business request for reconsideration of findings of fact, violation 6712. Administrative appeal, renotice of violation issued 1/28/2022. Applicant Leah B. Rachin, Esquire, on behalf of Management Controls Inc., Management Controls Community LLC, location 28 Whitetail Lane, map lot 001020, zone LRR2, description, administrative appeal of notice of violation. So this is new business. I'll go ahead and is it appropriate, Attorney Wagner, to make a motion to move forward with this new business? Attorney Wagner, is it appropriate to do a motion to move forward with this new business?
Sure.
Okay, I will make the motion to move forward with this new business.
Seconded.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, David Murch, yes.
Greg Dean, yes.
Tom Hennessy, yes.
Fred Mello, yes.
Reed Logwood, yes.
So we received a request from Attorney Wyckoff dated October 27, 2022, concerning this administrative appeal. I'll go ahead and it's short. I will read it into the record. Dear Chairman Murch and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, pursuant to Section 16, subsection I-5 of the Town of Raymond Shoreland Zoning Ordinance, the Town of Raymond, also known as the town, respectfully requests that the Zoning Board of Appeals, ZBA, reconsider its October 25th, 2022 written decision memorializing its deliberations on September 27, 2022 in the above referenced appeal solely with respects to violations 6, 7, and 12. In its written decision in the above referenced matter, the ZBA consolidated violations 6 and 7 of the notice of violation and upheld them on a consolidated basis, while also upholding violation 12. During the ZBA's deliberations, after the ZBA's hearing held on October 25th, 2022 on Big Lake Marine LLC's administrative appeal of the notice of violation from March 10, 2022, pertaining to 28 Whitetail Lane, the ZBA voted to uphold violations 6 and 7 individually, but voted to vacate violation 12 as being duplicative of violation 7. Factual background of all three violations is substantially similar. Although the town disagrees that any violation should be consolidated or vacated, the town's view is that logically, and to avoid confusion, the ZBA's decision in both administrative appeals as to these three violations should be treated the same. Therefore, the town respectfully requests that the ZBA reconsider its written decision in the management controls appeal and conform its treatment of violations 6, 7, and 12 to the ZBA's treatment of them during its deliberations in the Big Lake Marine appeal. That is, that it uphold violations 6 and 7 individually and that it vacate violation 12. So I would appreciate if Attorney Wagner could sort of step us through the process for this reconsideration.
Sure. So as Attorney Murch summarized, you have before you a request for reconsideration. So if you were to turn to what I have as section G5 is the reconsideration standard. And I will read that for the board. It says the Board of Appeals may reconsider any decision within 45 days of its prior decision. A request of the board to reconsider a decision must be filed within 10 days of the decision that is to be reconsidered. A vote to reconsider and the action taken on that reconsideration must occur and be completed within 45 days of the vote on the original decision. The board may conduct additional hearings and receive additional evidence and testimony. What that means is that the board essentially has two action items tonight. So the first would be to grant the request to even reconsider your prior decision. And that's the threshold issue. And then if you do choose to reconsider that, you would then address the request made by the town to let's see, keep the decision in both 28 Whitetail matters logically consistent and avoid any potential confusion by upholding 6 and 7 as individual counts and vacating violation 12. So first issue again is whether to grant reconsideration in the first place. So I would advise you that that's an entirely discretionary call, but reconsideration is not a extraordinary remedy. Boards routinely do it, correcting past mistakes or reconsidering decisions in light of new evidence or in light of different arguments is routine. If you think it'll make your decision better or it would make it more consistent with your reasoning, then that's a good reason, in my opinion, to grant reconsideration. I'm happy to give you my opinion on the merits of the request, but I'll turn it over to the board first for discussion.
Board, do you have any questions for Attorney Wagner?
So if we decide to change this, so do we start a whole new process over again? In other words, testimony, or is there to be new evidence added, or do we go
Nope.
based on what we already have? Or-
No, you have no obligation to do that. If you look at section 16G5, it says the board may conduct additional hearings and receive additional evidence. So that's entirely discretionary. You could, but you are not required to.
I'm gonna go ahead.
I asked before, that there was no legal reason for changing this. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think if you grant reconsideration, you can certainly hear from Attorney Wyckoff and then the other attorneys. But as I understand it, the purpose of the reconsideration is that there's some logical inconsistency between on 28 Whitetail MCL consolidating 6 and 7 and upholding 12. But then in 28 Whitetail BLM, we separate them and then vacate 12 on the basis that it's duplicative of 7. And but they're largely based on the same set of facts, at least as it pertains to these violations. So the idea is to avoid any confusion and make them logically consistent without any of the parties conceding their original positions on those points. The suggestion is that they would read more logically, and I agree. As I don't think comes as a surprise. I think I was sort of getting at that last time, that it seemed to me that we some members of the board changed their mind in light of the arguments and some new evidence, and so I think it makes sense to revisit the prior decision and see if that same reasoning applies there.
Mhm.
So I would recommend granting the request for reconsideration.
The reason I ask is because, like, I'm trying to find it right now, that we received a letter from Attorney Lee, that she wanted us to break down why we were making the changes. See if I can find that.
Yeah, did everybody receive that letter?
Yes.
Yeah, so here she says, however, to the extent of the board's to incline to reconsider and modify the October 25th decision as requested by the CEO, and to respectfully urge it to issue detailed findings and conclusions that implicitly articulate both the legal and factual basis for doing so. Specifically, we request that the board explain in detail the legal basis for why it considers violations 6 and 7 to be distinct violations, and to enumerate the specific facts on which it bases any such determination. So that's why I was asking about, bringing in new information, all that stuff. It looks like she wants something detailed from us.
Yep, as I read the request and if you grant reconsideration, I'd encourage you to provide an opportunity for Attorney Rachel to summarize her position on this. But certainly you're not obligated to accept new evidence or hear extensive arguments. That's really at the discretion of the board. In my opinion, yes, you should articulate your reasoning, which I believe you've done that through the written decision on the Big Lake Marine matter, and we can look to that as a guide if we choose to revisit 28 Whitetail MCL for articulating the findings and the reasoning.
So having the timelines have all been met in terms of within 10 days of having the submission of the request, the timeline of 45 days with the decision. So in terms of those deadlines, we're meeting that. Given the reasoning in the reconsideration, I would like to make a motion that we consider this reconsideration.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, David Murch, yes.
Craig Dean, yes.
Tom Hennessy, yes.
Fred Mello, yes.
Lee Lockwood, yes.
Okay,
So I would suggest turning it over to Attorney Wyckoff if you guys have any comments in addition to what he put in his letter, and then Attorney Rachel.
Attorney Wyckoff, please.
I'll be brief. I don't have much more to say. I really said it in the letter, and Attorney Wagner did a good job of summarizing the grounds. I just think that there's a logical inconsistency between the decisions and that they should be reconciled, and that you should reconcile them by adopting the reasoning that you used in the Big Lake Marine decision. And then to address Mr. Miller's comments about Leah Rachen's request, I think Attorney Wagner is right. You've already got it. What he circulated around, it has the basis for your reasoning there, and I think that's sufficient. And with that, I'll conclude.
Board, do you have any questions for Attorney Wyckoff?
I don't have any.
Attorney Rachen?
Thank you. I will also be brief, and this may be the record, folks, for our quickest meeting in these proceedings. Simply put, I just wanted to say, and I think, again, Attorney Wagner stated this, that I think neither myself or Attorney Wyckoff are waiving any of the arguments that we made before. What I was trying to impress upon the board when I was writing this letter is simply that, we've got two different decisions. It's my belief and submission that, you're basing two different decisions on the same evidence and the same arguments. And so for the record, in the event that there's an appeal, we just want to make sure that the findings make clear why this board came to an inconsistent decisions and how, in their view, they reconcile those decisions, just so that in the event the court has to review that, it's clear why there was a change of heart and on what basis, both factually and legally, that change was made. That was what I was trying to say. And also, just very briefly, I want to make sure, and I'm sure the attorneys probably agree on this, but just to get on the record, that the original, if in fact you do reconsider and make those revisions that we saw in red line circulated, that the original decision also is part of the record. I think we're all clear on that. But Attorney Wagner, if you could just weigh in and let us know if that's your understanding and if the parties also agree.
So can you say that again?
Yeah, so you had circulated earlier this afternoon, the three, obviously one is the Big Lake Marine, which isn't at issue here, but the first was, I think you said, as the MCL, when I say that, management controls the original written decision as it was currently, adopted versus any reconsidered. I just want to make sure that both versions will be in any, is considered to be part of the administrative record.
Yes, absolutely. Both would be part of the administrative record, but the final decision here, if the reconsideration request is granted,
Yep.
would be that second version.
Yep. I'm glad we agree. Thank you.
And then if the board would like to hear from Attorney Braun, I would encourage it to do so if he has a position or any comment.
No, I would echo what Attorney Rachen has stated, and I don't have anything to add.
All right. So any further questions from the board from me? I can, if it's helpful, share my screen again, and I've got two versions up here that Leo alluded to. One is version 1, so this is what was approved but not yet signed by the board. That incorporates Sandy's edits that we discussed at the end. So this would be the decision that we would sign if you were to choose to deny the reconsideration. And then if the reconsideration is granted, what I've proposed here in track changes are the edits I would make to the decision. adding a paragraph summarizing the reconsideration request, and then modifying section 7 to reflect that the 6 and 7, the board concludes, are not duplicative, the reason for that conclusion, and then factual findings supporting the conclusions that violations 6 and 7 should be upheld. And then a section declaring violation 12 vacated on the basis that it is duplicative of violation 7. And I incorporate the same reasoning used in the Big Lake Marine decision.
I have a quick question, actually procedural question, if I might. So my understanding is, are we reconsidering 6, 7, and 12 in any outcome, or are we only reconsidering the proposed outcome from Attorney Wyckoff? I mean, in other words, could we vacate all of them or come to a drastically different conclusion in this reconsideration? Not that I'm suggesting, this is an example to understand what exactly we're deciding on. I think would be helpful.
I think what you've done now is granted a request to reconsider 6, 7, and 12. And so that's opened the door for you to take any action you want to take, if any action at all, on 6, 7, and 12. If we wanted to go beyond those 3, I would suggest a motion by the board to open up reconsideration of those additional items.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
But we're going to use the same vote count that we had in the original one, correct?
No, so I would have you take new votes on 6, 7, and 12 if you want to make different findings and conclusions. So I've left the votes here blank, and so I would have us go through motions on each one of the votes here.
From my perspective, I do agree that we should make these consistent, especially given the most recent, conversations that we've had as a board and through the public hearing. So I'm good with moving forward with this reconsideration as proposed by the town. That's my perspective. I don't know if anybody else has a perspective they want to share. It sounds like we're good to go moving forward with this. What is the next procedural step, Attorney Wagner?
So I would suggest we start here at the start here in section 7, and why don't you first review these 3 paragraphs, and so what I'm hearing from you is that you agree that 6 and 7 are not duplicative, and that's what this paragraph says, and these are the reasons for that. So does the board, or at least the majority of the board, agree with that reasoning? And so that's adopted from the reasoning from the Big Lake Marine decision, which is a reflection of the discussion that the board had at our last public hearing.
I'm in agreement with it.
I'm in agreement as well.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, I think that 6 and 7 are duplicative. So I don't agree with that, but I think the majority do. So we can have a discussion and take it to vote.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, I'm mute, Tom.
I don't think they're duplicative and haven't since the beginning. So.
Okay. And then, so what I would suggest then is to have a vote upon reconsideration to consolidate 6 and 7. So essentially we'd be having a revote on the vote last time, which was a vote to consolidate 6 and 7.
I would say so moved.
Seconded.
So if I'm hearing correctly, then a vote in favor of this would be to split these back into separate violations. Is that correct?
No, a vote on reconsideration to consolidate 6 and 7. So a vote in favor would be to consolidate 6 and 7. So not to tell you all how to vote, but I expect that we'll have a yes vote from Greg, followed by 4 no votes.
All right. So David Murch voting no.
Sorry, just want David, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead. No.
I have to have a discussion before we meet.
You need a second on that as well.
Did we not get a second?
I seconded.
I'm sorry, who was that? You, Greg?
I was me, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Unless there's I could be wrong, but I wanted just to give us a shot of have a discussion.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I just still haven't heard what the articulated difference between them is. I've heard the kind of legal differentiation, but I haven't seen an example from the evidence that actually makes them different. I think, David, you were pointing to something that maybe if I recall, on an invoice, on some sort of exchange outside of the visual evidence that you thought, and I'm wondering if that was your basis for thinking that these are distinct. But again, just to re-articulate without being ad nauseum here is the only thing that I think that makes them distinct is the leaf litter for stuff layer, and we very, very specifically asked to have that pointed out where that was in violation. I haven't seen that, and my recommendation would be to consolidate them.
Yeah, Greg, from myself, I'm trying to find it. I did see, I understand what you're saying about the leaf litter and the duff, but then it also it initially says ground cover, which can include. So, and ground, the ground cover did, there was visual evidence of pine needles and written up in an invoice, or at least, described as what they would do for work is to remove any dead wood, which was indicated as well to be ground cover. Sorry, kitty.
Well,
so,
yeah. I think it would just help for clarity's sake if we specifically what evidence are you using to draw that conclusion? Do you have I don't want to put you on the spot. I think I could be convinced if I think where I'm getting tripped up is I honestly, after reviewing it, I just can't see what I think would be considered other ground cover or leaf litter or forest stuff layer that, again, none of those things are defined. So I'm just trying I actually want to get on the same page. I just don't, I haven't seen it. And when asked specifically, so I don't think it's actually in the,
Can I say something, Dave?
Yeah, let me just address Greg's question real quick, though. Yeah, I'm doing it based on the testimony of the code enforcement officer, Greg, where he did say that there would have been pine needles, and he did indicate that there should have been, some dead wood on the ground, of which there was neither. So that's the evidence that I'm doing it based on. So go ahead, Fred.
Well, I was just going to add to the fact that I don't think this is all just on pine needles and leaves. This is on growth, in there also. So, I mean, it's not based on just strictly pine needles and dead wood and leaves. And if you look at the pictures, I mean, it's obviously been cleared of all the greenery and everything. So one of them is from 3 feet down and one of them's for 3 feet up. So if my memory serves me right.
I think 7 just covers all the vegetation, and that
Right.
6
Right. So I think one is, and I have to dig them back out. I guess my paper's in front of me, but I think one of them was talking anything that was 3 feet and under, and one was more than above 3 feet.
Look, I don't want to belabor it. I just asked, I was hoping somebody, like I got my answer out of David. It's a big hill to climb. I just wanted to have a discussion, want to put it back out there. You know, to me, pine needles and some dead wood without some more convincing evidence is nominal, like yard maintenance. And so that's kind of, I'm having a hard time understanding how, you know, I think there definitely could be evidence. I can hypothetically think of scenarios where 6 would be a violation, but I just didn't see evidence for it. So again.
But David, whenever Greg's done, I got a comment.
Sure, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, my understanding, and one of the attorneys can correct me if I'm wrong, but violation 6 was for section 15, subsection QC, removal of vegetation less than 3 feet. Violation 7 was removal of vegetation with no permit. And that's part of the distinction I'm making, and I don't know if Fred's doing the same thing, but and 7 cites section 14, subsection 5. So I see a difference.
I agree with you, Tom.
Okay, is that anything more you want to discuss, Greg?
No, I've said it multiple times.
All right, fair enough. I just want to make sure you feel like you got what you need.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to note that I did add in this here based on that discussion, just making sure that we reference the deadwood finding as part of the reasoning for why 6 and 7 are not duplicative.
Okay, very good. Yep, I appreciate that.
Okay.
So I will go ahead and we do have the motion. It has been seconded. We will go forward with the vote, and David Murch voting no.
Greg Dean, yes.
Tom Hennessy, no.
Fred Millen, no.
Be Lockwood, no.
Okay, so that's 1 to 4, no abstentions. On consolidations, so 6 and 7 remain individual violations. So I would suggest a motion upon reconsideration to deny the appeal in part and uphold violation 6.
So moved.
Seconded.
And just to be clear, this would be based on the findings articulated right here.
Anybody want to discuss this one any further?
I'm all set.
We'll go ahead then and move forward with the vote. David Murch voting yes to uphold.
Greg Dean, yes.
Tom Hennessy, yes.
Fred Miller, yes.
Be Lockwood, yes.
Okay. And I would then next suggest, based on the findings highlighted here, that the board vote upon reconsideration to deny the appeal in part and uphold violation 7.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion on this board before we vote?
None for me.
Okay. David Murch voting to uphold.
Greg Dean, yes.
Tom Hennessy, yes.
Fred Miller, yes.
Be Lockwood, yes.
Okay. So that addresses violation 6 and 7. So turning to violation 12. So if you recall the way that this appeal was set up, we discussed 10, 11, and 12 together. which is a little different than Big Lake Marine where we addressed it individually. So the only changes here, I believe, are what I've noted here. So it would be saying that violations 10 through 11 are independent violations and should not be consolidated. Then adds this paragraph stating that the board concludes violation 12 is the exact same statutory reference as violation 7 and is duplicative. And I've included the same reasoning that the board had in the Big Lake Marine decision. As you can read there, as well as the comment, I think it was from Greg Dean, and the board agreed that just because 12 is vacated, that's not in any way a statement on the magnitude of the violation, just from the board's opinion from a legal standpoint, it is duplicative and should therefore be vacated. Any comments on that reasoning and those changes?
I believe I voted no on this correctly.
I think that's correct. Yeah, it looks like the decision to vacate violation 12 as duplicative was 2 in favor and 3 opposed. Therefore, it was upheld last time. So here I would recommend, again, we take a vote on vote upon reconsideration to vacate 12 as duplicative of violation 7.
So moved.
I will second. We
Any
have
further discussion?
So which vote does which way? So if we vote for it, it's vacated, and if we say no, then it's not vacated, correct?
Correct. And if the noes prevail to not vacate it, just stating in the positive, I'll have a second motion to uphold violation 12. So that probably didn't need to know that. So yes, the question for you now is vote to vacate 12 as duplicative. So a yes vote says you agree it is duplicative and therefore should be vacated.
okay. Did we motion this yet? I'm so sorry.
Yes, I believe we have a motion in the second.
Okay. So any further discussion before we move the vote forward? I'm going to vote yes.
Greg Dean, yes.
Tom Hennessy, yes.
Fred Miller, no.
Lockwood, yes.
Okay. So that is a 4-1. So then I'll need a final vote to approve the decision as modified upon reconsideration, which grants the appeal, denies the appeal in part and grants the appeal in part as reflected in this modified draft.
So moved.
Seconded. Any further discussion, board? All those in favor, David Murchie, yes.
Greg Dean, yes.
Tom Hennessy, yes.
Fred Miller, yes.
Lockwood, yes.
Okay, so I will get those in final shape with Sandy and she will reach out to you all to collect your signatures.
Okay, so just to confirm, you're going to ultimately be waiting on us for 2 separate documents to sign, correct, Sandy?
That's what I was just gonna confirm, David, with
Okay.
Mr. Wagner, that it is both of those have to be signed, correct?
So so we'll be signing this version 2 of
Right.
the reconsideration decision and then the Big Lake Marine.
Big Lake
decision.
Marine, correct.
The other decision will remain, I'll put a draft stamp on it.
And it remains part of the record.
It'll be part of the record, but it should not be signed.
Thank you for that confirmation.
Yeah. So I don't think we have any other items, so I'll just say my part, that I have appreciated the opportunity to work with you all and all the members of the board. I've been impressed by your dedication to the task before you, and I, thank you for your service. It's not a easy job. It's probably more than you signed up for, but if there's any silver lining to this whole process, the town now has a very experienced Board of Appeals, probably one of the more experienced boards of appeals in the entire state. So a lot of folks could learn a lot from you. So thank you all, and thank you to all the attorneys for your professionalism and cooperation throughout a very long, I think for me, this would probably be my longest Board of Appeals process. So I've learned a lot from you all as well. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Attorney Wagner, very much so.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
All right, so board, we are at adjournment. Can I get a motion for that?
Seconded, or so moved.
Seconded.
All right, all those in favor of adjourning, David Murch, yes.
Greg Dean, yes.
Tom Hennessy, yes.
Fred Miller, yes.
Lee Lockwood, yes.
Very good. Good night, everyone. Thank you all.
Good night, all. Thank
Night.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.